Hello, beautiful people, and welcome. In this video, we will be reviewing for our upcoming quiz on right triangles. First question is asking us to find the missing side of the right triangle. Now, it is asking us to leave your answer in simplest radical form. So this part right here is extremely important because it's going to tell you not to use a calculator to round. It's asking you to leave it in a radical form. Now, if you recall, a radical is a root. So like a square root, cube root, fourth root. So you can have something like square root of 27. You can have something like 3 times the square root of 27. So just keep that in mind that if it's asking you to leave your answer in simplest radical form, there must be a radical in your answer. Let's go and get started. Because we do have a right triangle, this means that we have the Pythagorean theorem to use. Across the street from your right angle is always your C value, your hypotenuse. Your A and B placement doesn't matter. So if you want to make 14A, go ahead. If you want to make 14B, go ahead. It doesn't matter where A and B is. What does matter is your hypotenuse. So we have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A we said is 14, so we have 14 squared plus B, which is 8 squared, equal to C squared, which is X squared. If you wish to keep it as C, you can if you want. Using our calculator, I'm going to type in 14 squared plus 8 squared, and that gives us 260, and that's equal to x squared. Taking the square root on both sides, we have x is equal to the square root of 260. Now, this potentially is not your answer. You have to check to simplify. And the way you simplify, I'm going to shift this up here, is you're going to split this up and pull out a perfect square if available. So how do we know what a perfect square is? I'm going to do this kind of off to the side in a thinking bubble. Well, we have 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, 6 squared, etc. We kind of go down the list. We want the largest number to go into 260. So our options are 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and we keep going. I didn't stop at 36 knowing that I need to stop at 36. I just stopped because I got lazy. I'm just going to make sure to check all of the numbers that go in it. So we're checking 260 divided by 36. That is an icky number. Then we're doing 260 divided by 25. Still icky. I mean, it's prettier, but it's not a whole number. Then we have 260 divided by 9. That's icky. 260 divided by 4. 65. So 65 is a pretty number. It's a whole number. Now we want to make sure that's the largest, so we can try to simplify 65 again. But I believe 65, we won't be able to simplify. So I'm going to double check here. Make sure there's no other larger numbers that we can simplify it to. And it looks like that would be it. So we're going to write 4 here. 4 times 65 is 260. 4 square rooted is 2. We cannot simplify 65. So our final answer for x is 2 times the square root of 65. And this is your answer. Moving on to question number 2. State if the triangle is acute, obtuse, or right. So on this one, you need 3 different tools. A squared plus B squared, and then AC squared. What you do with that is, depending on what your symbol is, will depend on what your triangle name is. The way I like to remember is if the sum is bigger, it's kind of like thinking opposite. If the sum is bigger, you have acute. If the sum is smaller, you have an obtuse. And if the sum is equal, then you have a right triangle. So how to find out? Please don't put a right angle there. You do not know that it is a right triangle. We're trying to figure that out. So we are going to do a squared plus b squared. And I'm going to draw a line here to indicate that there's something there. You can even draw a box if you want. Something's there. So ABC The only thing that matters is the largest side needs to be C. So I'm going to do kind of checking on my calculator. I'm going to do the square root of 11. That's about 3.3. Square root of 3, that's about 1.7. And 2 times the square root of 2, that's about 2.8. So what that means is square root of 11 is my longest side. So that's going to be my C. Now A and B, again, doesn't really matter. So let's just make this A and make this B. A is square root of 3 squared, plus B is 2 times the square root of 2 squared, and C is the square root of 11 squared. Now, when you're doing this here, don't panic. Just let your calculator do the work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type all of this into the calculator. Parenthesis, square root of 3, parenthesis, parenthesis. You got to close everything up. We're going to square that, plus parenthesis 2 times the square root of 2, parenthesis, parenthesis, squared. I'm going to press enter, and that gives us 11. Then we're going to do the opposite side. So we have, again, if you know what this is already, I applaud you. If you don't, just type it into the calculator. I know when it comes to taking a test, sometimes we forget the basics. Squared, and that equals to 11. So since 11 is equal to 11, we look back up here. Because they are equal, that means this triangle is in fact a right triangle. And this is your answer. That's your answer. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Give me a quick second. I know I have more questions. There they are. Let's talk about our special right triangles. For special right triangles, we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now, these arrows just tells you what to do to convert from a leg to a hypotenuse, from a long leg to a short leg. The way that I like to teach is I would like for you to set up equations, and then this stuff, the dividing, just kind of happens naturally. And I'll show you how to do that here with a few examples. So we are going to solve for the unknown side. So in this case, we want to solve for D. Knowing that this is an isosceles triangle and we have a 90-degree angle, so this is same. That means these angles have to be 45. Isosceles means that if we have two congruent sides, the angle opposite them are also congruent. That means if this side is D, this side is also D. We're going to mark up the triangle just like this with our x's. So we have x, x, and x root 2. When you mark this up, you will end up with some sort of equation. In this example, this is our equation. I'm going to bring that out. So our equation is x times the square root of 2 is equal to 15 times the square root of 2. Now, if you already can identify that x is 15, great. If not, I'm going to continue. We're going to try to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide by root 2, divide by root 2. So x is then equal to 15. Now that you have solved for x, we can go back in and identify that, well, if d is equal to x, d is then equal to 15. Then this is your answer. Let's do another one with a 45, 45 before we move on to 30, 60, 90. Let's mark this up one more time. Across the street, from your right angle is your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is x times square root of 2. That means these two sides are congruent. So if I have this square root of 6, this one is also square root of 6. That means this angle is also 45. Now, if we have x root 2 here, this means this is x. This means this is x. So here's my equation that I was referring to. Somewhere there always will end up being some sort of equation. So our equation is root 6 is equal to x. Well, if root 6 is equal to x, we're going to take that x and plug it into our hypotenuse. So our hypotenuse is equal to x times the square root of 2, which means that root 6 times root 2 is our hypotenuse, which means 6 times 2 is 12, which I have 12. Now, be careful with roots. You need to have them in simplest radical form. So that means I'm going to split this up. I have a root 4 times root 3, because 4 times 3 is 12. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 3 is not pretty, so we keep it. And so this right here is your answer. W is equal to 2 times the square root of 3. Moving on to the 30, 60, 90 triangles. Again, let's label it. First, across the street is your 2x for your hypotenuse. The long side is equal to x root 3, and the short side is equal to x. That being said, you have now found your equation. We got 44 is equal to 2x, divide by 2, divide by 2. X is then equal to 22. So that means this A value is 22. This B value is 22 times root 3, and you are done. One more. We have 16 root 3. That's given, but let's mark it up first. Across the street from our hypotenuse is C, which is 2x. That means our short side across the street from 30 is x, and this one here is our long side, which is x times root 3. You notice that we have root 3, root 3. That means x is 16, kind of giving you a shorthand here. I apologize for that. I have to pause, the bell just rang. Wrapping up this question, since we know that x is 16 because they match up, that means x here for the short side is 16, and that means our hypotenuse is 2 times 16, and 2 times 16 is 32 for our answer. All right, beautiful people, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!